What's going on, guys? Back at you with another video. Again, as I tend to do, I'm going to try to be semi-quiet because I'm filming in the middle of the night. It is currently 2:30 in the morning. Couldn't sleep real good, so I decided to put together another video real quick. You've already read the title. You know what it is. The Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Y'all all know this knife. Y'all have all seen this knife, heard of this knife, everyone. This just seems to be the love child of the knife world. There's not going to be anything that I say in this video that you probably haven't heard 1,000 times already. This knife's been out so long and it has got so much publicity, I guess you would say. You know, everybody knows this knife, everybody loves this knife, and for good reason. So again, I'm not really going to say anything in this video that you haven't heard yet. It's just, of all the knives I've done reviews of, you would thought I would have gotten this one out of the way fairly early, and I just never got around to it. So decided to do one today. And another thing is, you've probably already noticed, this knife is not a stock Spyderco PM2. Although the stats for this knife and a standard Spyderco PM2 are going to be roughly the same, the specs I'm giving you are for just a stock, completely stock, satin blade, G10 handle, S30V PM2. That's what I'll be reading from. Because that's what this knife is, just before I customized it. Don't know if you can see on the blade right there, S30V. So this is just a standard S30V PM2. This knife, again, I ordered it. It was just a stock, you know, satin finished PM2 G10 scales. I ordered this knife from KnifeWorks. This is, I couldn't tell you how many PM2s I've had. And I normally always do exactly this. I'll get one, keep it for a little while, maybe do some work to it, end up selling it off to get something else. And then inevitably, I'll always come back to wanting to get another PM2. So this is the last one I got. I've had this one for about a month now, I guess. Like I said, I ordered this one from KnifeWorks. I didn't pull up the exact price I paid for it, but I pulled up before this video to see what they had in stock. And this knife in stock in factory configuration was $155 as of the recording of this video. Sorry guys. Overall specs, y'all have all heard all this before. Overall length open is 8.28 inches. Closed length is 4.8 inches from tip to butt. Blade length is 3.43 inches overall. About a 3-inch cutting edge on that, but 3.43 inches overall. The knife, as it comes from Spyderco, weighs 3.9 ounces. 3.9 ounces. And although this knife has been customized, this still weighs roughly that. This one may weigh a little more, a little less, somewhere in. I'll get into the customizations on this knife. But 3.9 ounces as it comes from Spyderco. S30V steel for this one in particular. As it comes from Spyderco, the standard G10 grips on this model, you can carry it tip up or tip down. On this model, as you can see with these scales, these aftermarket scales I have on here, the only way to carry it is right hand tip up. That's the only way that it's milled, but that's fine. That's how I carry. But as it comes from Spyderco, you can carry it tip up or tip down, your choice. Like most, oh gosh, Spidey flick fail. Like most standard Spydercos, the blade is a full flat grind all the way from the top, full flat grind all the way to the edge, coming into a decently thin thickness right behind the edge. Along with many other Spyderco knives, the PM3, this one does have the compression lock. Thoughts on the compression lock? you know, I mean, it's cool. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but to me, there's just nothing, you know, spectacular about it. Outside of fidget factor, there's really no workable difference to me between a compression lock and a liner lock. They both do the same thing, just on the opposite side of the knife. And with many other Spydercos, don't know if you can see it, probably not, but Golden, Colorado, USA Earth. The PM2 is a US made knife. Don't stab my tablecloth. Again, there's nothing in this video that I'm going to say that you haven't heard about the PM2 already. I just kind of want to give you my thoughts on it. For a bunch of people, I should say, this is kind of the ultimate go-to knife. And I get that. I understand the reasoning behind that. It is a great knife. It's a great overall just EDC user knife. To me, I don't carry this as often as many people do. I still carry it from time to time. It's just my only issue with not this knife in particular, but Spydercos in general, is if you can see how thin the tip of that blade is right there. And again, some of this may be unfounded fear, because in all my years of carrying Spyderco knives, I don't remember ever breaking the tip off of one. I'm not saying I haven't, but I don't remember it. But that tip is such a fine tip, and it's a really good working tip for small, intricate stuff. If I were to ever get a really nasty splinter while I was out, you know, camping or hiking or bushcrafting, I don't like to say that, but this would be the knife I would use to dig a splinter out. Stuff like that, this really small, thin, delicate tip, that's what that tip would really shine for. But the way I use my knives most of the time, I'm just really hard on them. I beat on them, I pry with them even though I know I shouldn't. And I've just always had this irrational fear that I will inevitably break the tip off of one of these knives. You know, the military, the PM2, the Para 3, they all have that same blade profile. And I'm always really worried about that tip. I know, like I said, that may be unfounded. I know somebody will inevitably comment and say, you know, they've busted cinder blocks open, you know, in half with their PM2 and the tip held up fine. And I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm just saying I'm not made of money. You know, I do all right for myself, but still, this is, at the end of the day, a $150, $200 knife. And I don't want to be breaking tips off of them if I can avoid it when I have other knives that would do that type of job much better than this knife does. But I understand why everybody loves this knife. It's a good overall size. Oh, my finger's on it. You can see, this is what I'm saying. I don't carry a Spyderco very often. It's not my go-to, so my Spidey flick is terrible, as you have probably noticed by now at this point in the video. I don't carry them that often, and it's solely because of that tip. I never carried this knife at work. At work, I really hard use my knives. And again, I'm not saying this knife wouldn't make it, but I highly doubt this knife making it through one job that I go on where I really use it like I normally do my knives without some type of damage coming to that tip. So I don't carry these knives at work. Again, if you had a more, you know, urban job, you work in an office or something like that, yeah, this knife would be fine. You're not, short of, you know, cutting through paper boxes or something like that, maybe hitting a staple, I don't see how you would really hurt this knife in any considerable way that couldn't be fixed or sharpened out. I just don't carry mine for work. This would be a knife I carry, you know, if me and my wife, you know, just go out to dinner, go to the movies, something like that, whatever the occasion is, and I just don't want to carry one of my big, heavy duty, you know, work knives, my cold steel, ZT, stuff like that. I may carry this, I may carry a Benchmade, a Civivi, something like that. Oh gosh, I'm just terrible, guys. I know I'm not doing anybody justice. But I do like this knife. It's a good knife. And again, for all my fears of the tip, I've never broken one of these tips off that I remember. So that may just be an irrational fear for me. It's just something that I think about, and I can never really get over anytime I really consider using this knife in a kind of hard to use type of roll, I'm just always, you know, that tip, that's just such a fine, delicate tip. And I really don't want to break that off if I can avoid it. Those are just my overall thoughts on the knife. It's a good knife. The ergos are good. I've got a pretty big hand. I wear an extra large to a double XL glove, and I've got plenty of room on this knife. Full 4-finger grip, and I have room to spare. I'm just barely pushing up on that bottom hump right there with my pinky. Full 4-finger grip. The ergos are great. Spyderco thumb ramps are great. They're sharp. Your finger will never slip forward off of this thumb ramp. Semi-mini choil right here. You can choke up on that if you want to. You know, get a little bit further up on the blade. Compression lock. It's great for fidget factor. Again, for me, I can take a compression lock or leave it. Honestly, for me and my use, and just how long I've been using knives, I'm probably still more comfortable with just a standard liner lock. But for fidget factor, you know, just sitting on the couch playing with a knife, yeah, the compression lock's better because you can one hand, you know, manipulate the knife and all that. It's a good knife. There's a reason that, again, this is probably the 10th or 12th Paramilitary 2 that I've had in my life. And this one probably won't be any exception. I'll probably keep this one for a little while longer and inevitably sell it. And then on down the road, I'll be like, well, you know what I'm missing? I still haven't got another PM2. So I'll inevitably sell this one and get another one at some point down the road, but that time hasn't come yet. Like I said, I've only had this knife for probably a little over a month now. And I just now kind of got it to where I made it my own. Something else I want to talk about in this video, as you've been seeing the entire video, this is not a, well, it's a stock PM2. It doesn't have anything crazy done to it. This knife came with the standard black G10 handle scales. As you can see, those are gone. These are Micarta scales. Micarta scales. I had somebody tell me I wasn't pronouncing it right one time. I really don't care. These are the Rips Garage Tech brown linen micarta scales, and if I remember to, I will link to his website down below. He does some really good work. Like I said, these are the brown linen micarta scales. He's got a lot of different colors and a lot of different materials. Even within micarta, he's got linen, he's got burlap, he's got a bunch of different types of material. These are the brown linen micarta. You can see if I just stick my thumb down and kind of rub it good right there, how it got dark. It absorbs the oils and the moisture out of your hands. I just like micarta. I think it patinas really well. It ages really good. That's why I went with these. And these aren't overly priced. I know Paramilitary 2 customizations are kind of a big deal. You know, this is one of those knives that's got a lot of aftermarket support for it, where you can kind of change anything and everything you want to. And as far as scales go, these aren't bad. Like I said, these are the Rips Garage Tech, and they vary in price depending on what model and what material you get and stuff like that. But I'm wanting to say off the top of my head, if I remember, these scales were $55, I think. And I think they were $55, and shipping took, I think after the day I placed my order, I think I received the scales 3 or 4 days later. So shipping was pretty quick. There wasn't a delay. These were in stock when I ordered them, so I didn't have to wait on them to make more or anything like that. Good quality scales though. Another thing about this knife you may have noticed is the finish on the blade. This is a acid etched Stonewash. And I thought about doing a video on this, but if you've ever watched some of my first videos, I don't edit videos. I don't like video editing. I'm not that great at it. I really don't have time to do it. That's why all my videos are sort of a one take, you know, one and done. You'll rarely ever see any edits in my videos where I cut out and clip back into something else. But I thought about doing a video on this process, but then I just kind of talked myself out of it. I was in a rush when I did this, and you know, it didn't turn out perfect, which is perfectly fine with me, because at the end of the day, this is just a user knife. Didn't turn out perfect, but I decided not to do a video on it just because I didn't want to have to edit the video, and I'm lazy. I did this acid stonewash myself. I've had guys, not on YouTube necessarily, but in real life, day-to-day life, ask me about this because some of my friends have known that I've done this before on knives. I've had a few of them ask me about it, so I figured I'd just kind of give you a rundown real quick on how I do it, what I do. Again, this knife is S30V. Stainless steels take a lot more to patina than a carbon steel does. Most of the time, if I do a forced patina on a carbon steel knife, I actually just did one on my SE4 the other day. Most of the time on a carbon steel knife, I will just do a vinegar etch. Most of the time I use apple cider vinegar because carbon steels take an etch a lot faster and a lot easier than stainless steel does. So on most of my carbon steels, I use a apple cider vinegar to etch it, and just depending on the knife, I may try to do a design, I may not. But on my SE, I didn't. I just did a solid dark black finish, and I just heat the apple cider vinegar up and dip it in there for X length of time. Just watch it until I think it's ready. On this knife, stainless steel knives, I use ferric chloride. Ferric chloride, I know someone will inevitably, correct me on this video. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a chemist. I don't know. It's an acid-like substance. You can get it, all the other YouTube videos, you can get it at electronic supply stores. I don't know what electronic supply stores are even still around nowadays. I know there aren't any around me, nothing like Radio Shack. I think the closest Radio Shack to me closed down probably 10, 15 years ago, I guess. But you can order it online. You can order it on Amazon. That's where I order it from. It just ships right to your door. That's what I use to do stainless knives. It just goes so much faster. It's almost impossible because I've tried to do a forced vinegar patina on a stainless steel knife, and it can be done, but it takes way, way too long to ever want to do it. And this is just as easy. It's not as cheap because a gallon of vinegar at the, store is, $3 or $4, whereas this is a little bit more, but it's still not expensive. If you can see the finish on there. What I use, and I said I brought it for this video just so I could show you guys. This isn't what I normally use. Normally I use, I don't remember what the name of it is off the top of my head. It's the one most of the other YouTubers who do acid etching do. It's in a white bottle with blue writing. It's like MG Chemicals or MG something like that. That's normally what I use, but I had to order some more. They were out of stock of it. So this is what I ordered. This Ecozol 100% pure ferric chloride. And this is a 32 fluid ounce bottle. This 1 quart. That bottle cost me $16 and some change, I think. It was actually one of the cheapest ones. The only two they had in stock were that one that I just showed you and PCB. The PCB and the one I just showed you were the same price, but the PCB was only a 16 fluid ounce bottle, where the one I just showed you was a 32 fluid ounce bottle. So double the amount of product for the exact same price. So that's what I went with, and it worked just fine. On my acid etches, I will just tell you, because I've tried it every way, I do dilute mine. I know a bunch of guys don't dilute theirs, and that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem doing it without dilution. I don't, because I check my knives pretty frequently. I don't just, put it in there and walk off. A bunch of guys will say you can destroy your knife like that using a 100% pure ferric chloride solution. And I'm sure you can if you were to just leave it in there indefinitely. Of course, it could tear your knife up. But I don't dilute mine for that reason. I don't dilute mine because I think it's too strong as it comes, in a pure state. I actually find that if I do dilute mine with just water, that it actually etches faster. And actually, this knife was a prime example. I etched this one about 4 hours before I filmed this video you're currently watching. That may be why you noticed, if you look at the blade, at the bevel on this knife, it's not shiny. I just did this acid etch and stonewash just a few hours ago, and I have not sharpened the knife yet since I've been done. And if you're going to stonewash, you do have to resharpen your knife because it destroys the edge on it. That's why if you've seen me, I've been sitting here rubbing this edge the whole video. It's not sharp. Tip's still sharp, but the blade is not sharp. But I have found that if I dilute mine, it does etch faster. This knife in particular, I actually forgot to dilute that solution before I did this knife. And this knife set in that pure ferrochloric acid, undiluted, for almost 30 minutes before I realized it. And at that point, it was just a very light gray etch. It had not started really getting dark yet, nowhere near what it looks now. And I was thinking, Lord, this stuff isn't worth the crap. I should have just waited and ordered the kind of ferric chloride I normally get. And then I thought, wait, I didn't dilute this. So I diluted it, and I'm not real specific on my dilution. Normally I'll do like 80%, chloride, 20% water, 70-30, something like that, just depends. So I poured some of the ferric chloride out, added in a little bit of water, and within about 5 minutes, this blade had started getting really dark. So that's the reason I dilute mine. Your mileage may vary, yours could be different, but for me, I've just always thought that if I do add some water to it, it actually etches faster. There may be a reason behind that. I'm not sure, I don't know, but that's just my experience. So I did the blade on this knife, and I'm not going to make this a super detailed video on that, but as you can see on the back of the blade, it is still shiny, as opposed to the spine of the knife. In the jimping, it's dark, and then it goes back to a bright reflective stainless. I do the same thing everybody else does. I just get nail polish, and I put nail polish on, where the bushings are and where all my contact points are, lockup points, because you don't want to get any of that etched, because it does change the dimensions of the knife, and it can affect tolerance and stuff like that. Plus it'll just make it a lot rougher. So I just cover everything in nail polish that I don't want to be etched. That's always worked fine for me. And then after the etching is done, well, I guess I should say, as you can see, you've been looking at it, the blade is etched and stonewashed, as well as the pocket clip. This is just the standard stainless steel Spyderco pocket clip. I also acid etched and stonewashed it, along with all this hardware. The pocket clip screws, the body screws, pivot screws, both sides. I know somebody will say you shouldn't do that. When I do it, I do not acid etch the actual threads on the hardware. What I do is I just cut the bottom out of a styrofoam cup, and I will just poke all the hardware through it flush to where the heads of the hardware are flush with the styrofoam, and I'll just lay it like that down in the ferric chloride and just kind of let it float there. That way the threads are sticking up out of it, but the heads of the hardware are being etched. So that way it doesn't ever get on the threads. I've never had an issue doing that. That's how I've always done all my knives that I've done this to. And I didn't do those near as long. You can probably tell they are just a very light gray color as compared to the dark gray on the blade itself and the pocket clip. I just did that just to have a little contrast with it. Somebody has asked me before about acid etching the liners. I don't know. I've never done it. I don't want to give you a yes or no answer. I could see where you could have issues doing it, and I can also see where it may be fine. I would just be very wary of all your contact points and stuff like that, to be sure you don't lose how good your action is. But yeah, overall, that's it. Oh, and I guess I should touch on, for the stonewash, all I do, and like I said, I just did this knife earlier. If y'all give me just a minute, I will show you. All I do, very simple, is I get a jar. This is the jar I use. I get a plastic jar, just like this. I don't know where, this is just a plastic jug I had from something. And I just literally went and got a bunch of rocks out of my yard. We have, you know, flower beds with the rocks in them for looks and all that crap. I literally just went and got a bunch of rocks out of my yard, put them in this jug, put the knife blade and the pocket clip in the jug, and then I put just a little bit of Dawn dish detergent and just a little spritz of water in there just for lubrication. I put the knife blade and the pocket clip in that jug. I tape the lid shut just to be sure it doesn't come undone. I wrap it in a blanket and I put it in my dryer. I know a bunch of people, you can use a tumbler or one of the little vibratory tumblers, or you can just sit there and shake it by hand. I don't have the time or the patience to do that. So I just wrap it in a big quilt or a blanket or something to keep it from banging around and making a lot of noise. And I just put it in my dryer and just run it on a cold cycle, a non-heated cycle, just an air dry cycle, just to get the motion. And I normally let it run for, you know, 5 to 10 minutes, just depending. This knife, I let this one go for about 10 minutes. And this is how it turned out. Of course, there's a lot of variation in that, depending on what type of medium you use, you know, what type of rocks or stone or sand you have in your jug. You know, you could have vastly different texture than this. All the ones that I used are, you know, medium. You can see my thumb right there. You know, medium-sized rocks, about the size of my thumb, about the size of the head of my thumb right there. I wasn't going to go out and buy or try to find special rocks somewhere in the neighborhood to use. So I just used what I had. It's no big deal. Again, this is kind of just a make it your own, you know. And again, if you mess up somehow terribly, you can always sand this whole thing down to kind of get back out to an even finish and just do the process over again. But that's it, guys. I didn't want this to be a long video, and this wasn't a tutorial video. I tried not to make it into a tutorial video. I just wanted to kind of give y'all guys an overview on this knife. It's a great knife. Real quick, I'll do some size comparisons. Again, this is the Paramilitary 2. On top, I will put its big brother. That is the standard Spyderco Military. I'm up butt to butt there. As you can see, the Military is much longer. Probably an inch, a little over an inch longer. And then on bottom, the Benchmade bug out. The PM2 is coming in probably about a half, 5/8 of an inch longer than the Benchmade bug out overall length. But yeah, I just wanted to show y'all guys. If y'all have any questions, feel free to ask. Again, I'm not an expert on any of this. I've done this acid wash and acid etch and Stonewash a few times. If you got any questions on that, feel free to shoot me a message. Again, I'm not an expert on it by any means. I just do it as a hobby. I've done it to many knives. Enough to the point where I've gotten comfortable with it. I don't really worry about doing it too much. It's not that big of a deal. If y'all have any questions on that that you think I might be able to help you with, shoot me a message. I try to be as active in the comments as I can. So feel free, you know, ask me a question in the comments, shoot me a private message, something like that. No big deal. I'll try to respond to you as soon as I get time. And again, guys, if y'all like the video, remember, like, subscribe, turn on the notification icon. I try to post new videos at least 1 to 2 times a week. But I do work a full-time job on top of that, so life happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen, sometimes it does. Thanks, guys. Again, like the video, subscribe, like. It really helps the whole YouTube algorithm. And again, if y'all have any questions, any comments, if you know something I don't that would make my life easier, please feel free to let me know. Anyway, guys, until next time, y'all take it easy. I'll see y'all.